I'm in Honiton today, in the county of Devon. Honiton is known, or was famous for Honiton lace. I've come to the graveyard at St Michael's. The church is no longer used, and the graveyard has been left to become more of a nature reserve, with the grass allowed to grow long. And we're just going to wander through and have a look at some of the memorials. As soon as we're through the gate, we meet these wonderful names here. Edith, the wife of Wisdom Smith, and she was the daughter of Tennet and Keziah Buckland. So we've got Wisdom, Tennet and Keziah. And when she died, she left a husband and 4 children to mourn their loss. Four stones in a row here, and all quite different shapes and designs. A good solid cross here, and the inscriptions are on metal plates. This is to Thomas Avery and Elizabeth Banks Avery. And if I walk around the side here, there are more metal inscriptions. James Avery, Vicar of Merton, Oxford, and so on. This one here is to Keziah, the wife of Robert Applin, 1885, and Robert died 5 years later in 1890. Both lived to a great age, 89 and 91. We get here a view of the Church of St Michael. The plaque at the gate said it's 15th century. That probably means something like the tower is 15th century. Often parts were rebuilt in the Victorian era. Up near the church here, there's a large table tomb. And on the side here is an inscription that's quite readable in one way, but another not, because it appears to be written in Latin. The name at the top is Maria, or Mary. And on the side of the tomb we have these 2 cherubs, and similar on the other side. There are inscriptions on here, but they're very difficult to read. I notice the graveyard is quite overgrown, but I like that. I like the fact that nature has taken over. Against this church is this table tomb, and there's been a new plaque put on top of it, and the replacement plaque on top obviously picks up the old writing that used to be on here, and it's to James Rodge of Honiton. Bond lace equals Scylla. I'm assuming that's very much something to do with the lace industry here, and he left £100 to be given to the poor forever, and he died in 1617. One here inside some metal railings, and the inscriptions on the side. On the right hand side we have Samuel Lott, Elizabeth Lott, Edward Dillham. On the left hand side we have Edward Lott, Nanny Bussy Lott, and Charles Garfield Lott Ducan, and probably inscriptions on the other side as well. Over here, a lot of the gravestones have been picked up and put against the boundary wall here, all covered with lichen and moss now. Buried here in the long grass is clearly a very large slab-like tomb, but now almost hidden by the undergrowth. Just show you some of these. This one here, tipping forward at a bit of an angle. John Thorne, 1864, and then Mary, his wife, in 1870, and a few more names down towards the bottom here. This one here, I'm thinking the first word is Sarah Swale, age 67. And then more names as we go down. The one nearest to us here is Richard Tucker, 1883, and his wife who followed him in 1901. There are stones hidden here in the undergrowth. Quite difficult to reach those. One here falling forward at quite an angle. The picture at the top is a lady coming out of a coffin. At least I think that's what it is. Cherubs each side. And the inscription is to John Camel Maltster, who for the greatest part of his life was blessed with health and strength before the last 3 years, when Providence thought good to afflict him with severe illness. Very interesting stone, that one. That really ought to be preserved. Table tomb here, completely covered with the ivy. And here's readable. This is William Letton. He was born in 1795 and died in 1866. Then Anne, his wife, George, their son, Henry, their son, and Eliza, and another name hidden down there beneath the ivy. That's a very elaborate stone. Here are two, completely covered with moss and lichen. Yeah, although you can't read the inscription is still under there, and we just got some wonderful character. It just makes this graveyard very special. This is over by the side, and it reads Richard Paddy Miller, 1879, age 50. And then you've got Matilda, Joseph Wood, Elizabeth, and so on down the stone. And alongside you've got these stones here. Wonderful character, the way they've weathered. The middle one there has the surname Miller. Some lovely designs on these stones. Such a variety. This one here reads Courtney Gidley, Attorney at Law of Honiton. Also captain of the 2nd Honiton Corps of Volunteer Infantry. Alongside there we've got presumably another member of the family, Richard Gidley. He's Attorney at Law as well. Horizontal one here, and this is for the family of Murch. Along here we have William Murch, died in 1856, aged 86. I've come up the other side of the old church now, and the graveyard stretches up the hill there. It looks as though the distant part of it is still being used as a cemetery. We'll work our way up there in due course. Large table tomb there, some big stones amongst the trees there. And then we've got a bit of the graveyard which has been fenced off with a gate. There's some very large stones here. A collapsing table tomb there. Come down here. There's one there, and a large one behind. Well, I've gone through the gate into this fenced off area. This one is on a large plot demarcated by stones, and it's readable. It's Sarah Trace, 1892, age 47, and Robert Trace, age 57, 1897, and Julia, their second daughter. This one under the trees here, William Collins. He died July the 18th, 1892, aged 90. This one here, a large cross mounted on 3 steps and partitioned off with these pillars and chains between them. Unfortunately, the inscription is not easy to get at. This is up in the far corner of this fenced off area. A lot of memorials, but because the trees around are not easy to read, the trees cause a lot of growth on the stones. One here for the Reverend George A. Brine, son of the late Admiral George Brine. One on the ground here, a war grave, Percival Durbin, second lieutenant in the Grenadier Guards, killed at the Battle of Arras, 1918, buried on Bury St Martin's Hill. He was just 25. And then on the other side we've got his brother, Seth Loveridge Durbin, Sergeant 6th Dorset, who was killed at Morinal Forest, again in 1918, aged 22 years. And we just have to be grateful for the gift they gave us. Just further back from that horizontal stone is another Durbin, Sarah the wife of Seth, but the stone itself has got a beautifully carved angel on the left, who's partly kneeling. Very nicely done. Nearby is this one, presumably another war casualty, William Ackland, beloved husband of F.A. Ackland, who died at the Royal Naval Hospital in Plymouth in 1918. And close by is this one in a very dark stone. And I'll show you the inscription if it was sharp on camera, but it reads Henry Thomas Carlyle Lancelian, Private 10th Battalion DCLI, who died 16th of August 1916 of wounds received in action at Troneswood, France, 1916. He was just 21 years old. And down here on the ground, almost missable, is this little memorial here, and that reads Ernest Frank Loveridge, died 1913, aged 3 years. Gone but not forgotten. Well, this bit of the graveyard is not in good repair, but that's mostly down to the fact that the ground is soft and the stones are starting to lean. They've not been pushed over, they've not been vandalised, it's just that the ground is not very stable. Again, a result of the soft ground here. There's another war casualty here, Reginald John Broome. He died at Tidworth Hospital 1918, aged 35. I've left the fenced off area. Here's a stone close to the nearby path. Interesting surname, Thomas Howell Gauntlet, 1894, aged 70. I'm looking up now into the newer section of the graveyard, and we're gradually working our way up there. I'm in quite a dark area beneath the trees now. This is a cross here, and the inscription at the bottom reads, in loving memory of George Walter Vaughan, I think, the only child of George and Edith, born 1888, fell asleep at All Hallows School in Honiton in 1903. So he was just 15 years old and something untoward happened to him. Another one under the tree here. You can see how the sap or the water off the branches is causing a discoloration on this stone. It's all part of the aging process. Here's one of the CWGC war graves. If you didn't have a private grave, then they would provide a memorial for you. And behind the wreath there is the surname Bristow, and he died in 1972, but clearly very well remembered. The wreath is not easily movable, so I can't show you the full inscription. A grave here with a lot of the red silk roses on it, and this is in tribute to Esther Isaacs. She was just 46. We often think of how you died, to think you couldn't say goodbye. The blow was hard, the shock severe, to part with one we love so dear. An unusual design on this one. Very fancy. I'm not quite sure what it's trying to do. There seems to be a column and then an ornament on top. And the inscription at the bottom there is Harry Alford, who died in 1936. There's another war grave here. Edward Frank Pope, Lieutenant, and brackets A, Royal Navy, killed on active service 1940, aged 25 years. In the top part of the stone, in some sort of insignia, there are two wings on either side, but I can't make out what the other bit is. I'm part way up the newer section now and looking back at the St Michael's Church, the 15th century church. And looking further up the hill, you can see these are all the modern graves. Just masses of flowers remembering the people. As we pan round, we come across a wall of remembrance. These will be for people that don't have graves here, probably cremated, but you can have a plaque which you can put on the wall, and you can put flowers alongside to show how much you miss them. Another very well kept grave with the silk roses and the brilliant white marble, making the inscription very easy to read. Up in the new section, this one stands out because of the two flags, Canadian maple leaf and the British Union Jack, and the name is Hal Van Dyck. And this stone is a little different from all the others we see around. Pete Clark, husband, dad, granddad, brother. Here's one to Shirley Queen Halse, a major in the Salvation Army, and then the beloved wife of Major Andrew Halse. It's always nice when the gravestones tell you a little bit about the person. This one has got the insignia of a little Ferguson tractor for George Henry White, and at the foot of the stone are two horseshoes. So you start to get a little picture of this man. He was in farming of some sort, loved his horses. Here's one to John Thomas, and someone's left a plaque next to the gravestone for Liverpool Football Club. And how about this one to Wilfred Frederick John White, and that was a seagull passing over, and at the top pictures of chickens, presumably his interest in life. Something a little different in design here. John Walter Isaacs, a large oval. And this small simple one here, W. Gerald Summers, 1933 to 2001. I love the inscription on this. No man is indispensable, but some are irreplaceable. It's got the initial BOBC underneath his name, Robert George Courtney. And I don't have any idea what BOBC is. Just one of the number of walls of remembrance here. And you can see the sort of memorials that are on there. It's lovely to see so many flowers. So many of these people are still remembered. Here's one with the picture of a pheasant at the top and the word gamekeeper. And this is Gilbert Anning, beloved husband of Doris, who died in 1988. Here is to William John Chard, died in 1987, aged 94. He served with honour, but was disabled in the Great War. That's the First World War. He still lived to a great age of 94, but presumably not fully active. And we don't forget the many Polish people that came over here and fought with us in the Second World War. And this one is to Stanislaw Bukowski, served with the Polish army. Well, I'm going to draw this to a conclusion now. This is an amazing find, this graveyard, from the wonderful old memorials at the bottom, amongst the trees and the grass let to grow like a nature reserve, to the interesting memorials further up the hill. I think in this part of Devon, this has to be one of the most interesting of the cemeteries. Do recommend you come and spend some time here. You've seen this on a very dull day. It's trying to rain, it's very overcast, and a summer's day it would be an absolute picture. So this is Honiton. Honiton's a town worth visiting anyway. Got some lovely shops in the main street. So take time to walk up the hill to the cemetery, to the graveyard, St Michael's, and spend some time here. Till the next time.